In today's video, we're going to talk about how different animals take in their food and what type of food they take in. Now, whenever we talk about animals or whenever we talk about living organisms as a whole, we know that we find a variety of living organisms on Earth. So, what is so special about Earth that helps living organisms survive or exist on Earth? Now, if you were to ask me, I'd probably say that, hey, Earth has air and living organisms need air to breathe. Specifically, the oxygen in the air is important for us. And along with that, Earth has water, and we know that we need to keep ourselves hydrated, and almost 70% of our body is made of water. But the most crucial thing that all living organisms require is food. And without food, it would become very difficult for us to survive. Now, to understand the importance of food, let's probably take an example of the school going boy. Now, if I were to ask him, hey, what are some of the things that you do on an everyday basis? He'd probably tell me, I go to school every day in the morning, and then, of course, I have to travel via school bus, and I take the school bus back home. And once I get home, I do my homework, and once I'm done with my homework, I go to play. But now, this is a very simple example that I can take of us human beings. But think about animals like the giraffes or the elephants or birds. Often, they also carry out different activities. But these activities would not include going to school, traveling, and doing homework. But rather, it would entail them in moving around, right? They'll go from one place to another and they would move around in search of food, in search of shelter, and also in order to protect themselves. So, therefore, when you think about it, primarily, right, food becomes extremely essential for living organisms because we see that in order to do all of these activities, they require energy. And where is all this energy going to come from? The food that we eat. Which is why we see that food is needed by all living organisms for survival. And I often say that it is the fuel that drives our body because once we eat food, we utilize it to grow for various repairs that need to happen in our body, to get energy to carry out activities, and for overall development. So, one thing we can understand from here is that all living organisms require food. Now that we have understood the importance of food, let us understand what kind of food animals eat. Now, let's say we take three examples. There's a cow, there's a tiger, and there's a human. Now, I have a very simple yes or no question to you. Do you think all these three animals, right, that you see on screen, and yes, humans are also animals, right? So, do you think all these three animals will eat the same kind of food? Yes or no? We've never seen a cow and a tiger really eat the same kind, right? Or we've never seen humans and tigers eating the same kind. Because let's say if I were to keep a plate of rotis here, I'm sure that that would not be the tiger's first preference, right? So, therefore, in this case, we see here that all these three organisms or three animals eat food, just that they don't eat the same type of food, right? So, we see that they all eat different types of food. Now, to understand this, let's do this in a simple activity wherein we're going to try and guess what kind of food would each of these animals prefer. So, this is a very simple activity, a very simple yes or no that you can do, and we're going to get started with the cow, right? So, in this particular case, we have the cow here, and there are four options here with us, right? One, two, three, and four. And all I need you to do is to tell me, right, what kind of food would the cow prefer to eat? One, two, three, or four. So, in this particular case, the answer is very simple and straightforward, right? The cow would never eat a deer, but rather the cow would prefer to eat grass or it would naturally prefer to eat plants. And of course, along with that, it would also prefer to, sometimes you might also find it feeding on hay. Easy. Now let's move on to the next one where we have the tiger. Now there's ramen and there are fancy tacos and then we have the deer. And I think the answer to this is very simple, that from all the three, the tiger would definitely not sit and eat ramen, but of course would eat the deer, right? Or feed on the flesh of other animals, where the tiger would often hunt these animals down and eat the flesh of it, leaving us with us human beings where we often prefer to eat cooked food. But the food that we eat, right, we see that it comes from plants and also animals, where sometimes there are some people who prefer to eat meat, eggs, milk, right? They're all products that come from animals. So, therefore, in this particular case, if there's anything that we've clearly understood, it is that all living organisms don't eat the same kind of food, but rather they eat different types of food. But ultimately, it is for the same purpose, right? Which is why living organisms, or I would say animals specifically, right? Animals here can be broadly divided into three categories, where we have herbivores, carnivores, and of course we have omnivores. Now, interestingly, all these three have the word vores in it. Now, the ending word vor in Latin actually means to eat, which is why herbivores are animals that prefer to eat herbs or they eat plants. So, herbivores are effectively animals that eat only plants. Now, some common examples include the zebra, it includes the deer, and rabbit. Now, if you look closely at these animals, there are some common features that help them eat and process plants. For example, if you were to look at their teeth are actually very flat, right? If you look at the teeth of a cow or maybe even a zebra, you would find a lot of similarities. And you notice how they are flat, that would help them bite and cut into the grass. And along with that, they have specialized teeth that would help them with chewing and grinding. And their bodies are also designed in order to process the plant based food that they eat. Now, interestingly, we see that herbivores are often food for animals like tigers and lions, which is why, in order to protect themselves from such animals, you notice how their eyes are on either side so that they can have a larger view, and in case if somebody is going to come and attack, they'd be able to protect themselves. So, these are some interesting facts about herbivores. Now, next up, we have carnivores. Now, carnivores are animals that eat only the flesh of other animals. So, here we see that tigers, lions, leopards, cheetahs are all examples of the same, where they have sharp teeth that help them tear into the flesh, which often appear to look something like this. And their eyes are located in front that would help them locate their prey, or that helps them locate their food. And eventually, they have strong legs that would help them chase and hunt down their food. Now, the last category that we have here are the omnivores. Now, omnivores are animals that eat both plants as well as animals. So, apart from us humans, bears, chickens are all examples of omnivores. And all these animals tend to have a variety of teeth, right? Or a diverse set of teeth that helps them eat both plant based food as well as animal based food. So, from this, what do we understand? We see that there are three categories where we have herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. Now, why can't all animals just eat one kind of food? Why is there a need to have different types of food? So, let's say all animals ate only plants, right? What could be the harm? Well, the thing is, for the number of animals that we have, which are in the millions, right? We don't have that many plants on earth to feed everyone. And some of these animals may not even be able to survive because their body is not designed to digest plants. Which is why, in this case, we see that different animals tend to eat different kinds of food.